Hi there, everybody. My name is Heidi Collins. I'm with Storybones Media, coming to you from Minneapolis, Minnesota today. And I have the great pleasure of bringing on three filmmakers who wowed me, and I'm sure they're going to wow you as well. They have come up with a film that we will be previewing at Sundance 2023, and it is called The Cuban Way. So I quickly want to go around the room, guys, and ask you if you would please introduce yourselves and then tell us briefly what you had to do with your work on the film. Miguel, I'll start with you.
Okay, hi everyone. I am Miguel Merino. I work in Anheuser-Busch, AB InBev, and I am leading global communications for Corona brand. And basically, our role, our challenge is to find different ways to land the Corona message, Corona brand purpose, the invitation to people to disconnect from daily routines and reconnect with nature, with the outdoors in different ways, new ways, from traditional advertising to entertainment, and supporting Corona Studios and this kind of content creation, this kind of films. It's giving us the possibility to meet this challenge.
Wonderful. David.
Hi, Heidi. I'm David Ospina. I'm from Colombia. I'm a 20-year filmmaker. I was the director of the film. And basically, this was sort of a passion project. So I was involved throughout all the stages of the filmmaking process, just doing all the research, writing down the script, locating every single one of the characters, directing the shoot, which we did in the course of 5 days, and then just all the post-production, basically supervising the whole film. But everything was shot and edited between just 4 people.
Wonderful. And in 5 days, that's awesome. All right, Gabor.
Yeah, hello. My name is Gabor Harek. I'm the operating partner for Corona Studios, pretty much doing this for the past 2 or 3 years. You could say I'm the middleman between people like David and then the brand representatives like Miguel, making sure we reach out to the right people, find new talent, identify exciting stories, and then making sure they are on brand and basically getting the biggest bang for the brand as well. Yeah, my work usually involves also giving a lot of editorial notes.
Wonderful. And you mentioned 3 things right at the top. So my first question may be for you, Gabor, but you guys help lead me if you will. Obviously, everyone who has seen this film or is going to in January of 2023 at the Brand Storytelling Network event at Sundance is going to have this question. Obviously, the brand we're talking about here is Corona. Where did the story come from? How do you go about digging up a story about some underground surfers who are pretty much evading policia and trying to get out there and do what they love? Did it come from the brand, or did you guys uncover it and bring it to the brand for funding?
It definitely, this time, definitely came from David. So, David, how did you find that amazing story?
Yeah, I actually came across it. I was reading about some updates of Cuba, some things that were going on the island. And there was just like a suggested article that started talking about surfers that were making exactly how you said, the boards, ripping off the refrigerator, them using cheese graters. But there was not much info. I mean, that's all I read, but instantly I was just hooked with that phrase. So what I did was like look for groups on Facebook, on Instagram, and just try to locate surfers on the island and send text to each one to try to just, what everyone was telling me, just try to build the whole story, try to really understand the whole context of it.
Wow, and it ends up being such an emotional story, the way that you did it. I imagine there was a little bit of perhaps danger or precariousness as well, because it sounds like they were not exactly allowed to do the surfing that they wanted to be doing. Tell me about that and some of the restrictions that were going on in Havana or other parts of Cuba?
Just surfing, even if there was no restrictions, just surfing in Cuba, moving around the island is complicated. Like we had sometimes groups of 12 to 15 surfers, and we had to pack them all in 1 or 2 cars. You basically didn't have any connection. You didn't have you couldn't send them a WhatsApp number, a WhatsApp text, and say, okay, we're gonna meet you guys at this hour. It was just, hey, let's go there, and hopefully they're gonna be there as well. So just moving around was really complicated. If we went around with the boards on top of the car, police would stop us every single time. They would start checking everything, seeing, hey, why are you guys using this? Or are you trying to, what's going on? Because there's still a lot of, they still think that people are going to flee the island, and they feel, since they don't know the sport, they feel that they're going to use that to try to go to Florida.
Right, right. And I loved one of the lines in the film. When everyone watches it, they'll see that some of the people thought those surfboards were ironing boards. Like, this is completely new to them. And most people have never seen this type of surfing before. So I would ask you then, Gabor, when the idea came up, and you're sort of like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the liaison between the filmmaker and the brand, what did Corona or Anheuser-Busch, what did they say about this idea of going to Cuba and just finding these people and trying to make a story out of it?
I think the brand team instantly recognized that there's something very grassroots to it, because, obviously surfing is extremely important to the brand, but not necessarily the performance sport, but more the lifestyle and the people behind it. And I think it was instantly recognized that there's an opportunity to see something very amazing, very much from the heart, and very grassroots. And to be completely honest, since there was little possibility to plan out every detail or storyboard every detail of this film, we just basically said, let's give it a go, without kind of overly managing the process or micromanaging the process, because it was almost impossible to be in constant communication with the cast or on the ground. So we just said to David, let's give it a try.
Yeah. Oh, I love that about a brand and a client. I need all of those types of brands for my clients. What a dream to work with. Miguel, I would
we're
ask
very
you,
tough. We are very tough clients. We're not that easy actually in the end. And then David knows that we are quite tough. But
so
in
this
this
was
case,
a departure then, it sounds like.
This is the beginning. You can be kind of very generous and lenient in the beginning, and then in the end still being a tough client kind of when it comes to notes. In this case, I have to say, the first cut was almost final cut.
Wow. I can't wait to get to that, because the
there were not
obviously...
there were not that many re-edits, or it was almost there the moment we saw it. It felt natural.
Yes, and I think that's important, because when Gabor says that we are a tough client, it's because we are always protecting the quality and the standard of the film. And we are trying to maintain and even raise our bar all the time. And that's why the editing process sometimes could be a bit hard, and we have some back and forth and feedback and challenge to our network of creators to maintain this quality. But in this case was really exciting that not only David brought a fantastic story, the journey of capturing the content was exciting, as he mentioned, but also the result was stunning from the very, very beginning.
Yeah, and you can really see that when you watch the film. There's just so many beautiful shots. I made note of a few of them. I think it was about 5 minutes in or so, when the glow on the water is shot from overhead, is just this golden, wonderful glow across the wave. And, you're just mesmerized by these gorgeous shots. So it just was an incredible job from the cinematography. I would also ask, Gabor, you mentioned this is a lifestyle. You just nailed it so well for me after watching the film. I loved the way from the very beginning of the film and that awesome open that you have and the sounds of the bubbles and the wave and all of it from the beginning was just so compelling. You really carried that theme of the Cuban way and teaching people a little bit about what the Cuban way is and the innovation and the struggle and the persistence. I felt it from the beginning to the end, but I would ask, what is it that you want this film to leave people thinking about the Cuban way? I think this will probably be a David question, and the brand at the same time.
I think, and then I'm curious to hear from David, but I think what they describe as the Cuban way is the brand. Yeah, in a way, it is that feeling they express. Yeah, what is, you know, their personal approach to surfing, their way of life. Yeah, this is where the brand and their lifestyle meet. Yeah, and this is different. If we would go to a different country, if you go to Brazil, Argentina, Venezuela, there will be something else, something different, but also there will like this place where we meet a local culture, yeah, where things that are important to us and things that are important to people overlap, yeah, and to me, exactly what they describe, I mean, they're not even really put it in words. They, I think David did a fantastic job as a filmmaker to transport that feeling, what the Cuban way is, without having to describe it in words. But that's exactly, I think, where the brand meets the people, and that's the message of the film. You know?
I think that's great. David, did the music have anything to do with that as well? Conveying that feeling, conveying the Cuban way? I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, from the very start, the first one you hear is celebrating Cuba, is Cuba, let Cuba live, let Cuba be free. It's this moment for them is like a call out to their community. Like every Cuban that's watched this film said that they feel that it captures their essence. It feels like it captures what they live, even if they don't surf in the island, even if they just do something completely different, even if they hadn't even heard of surfing before. It's just the way they carry themselves, it's the way they have to deal with things, considering the whole situation in Cuba. And for them, and here's where I think the brand meets. For them, surfing is their, it gives them a sense of purpose. It gives them a kind of an escape of reality and being in contact with nature and just letting their minds wander off, just dream big with a sport that isn't even officially recognized in the island yet. And they're dreaming of being in the Olympics. So for them, it's just something that makes them, it gives them their lives like a whole new meaning. And I feel that that's very much what Corona stands for when it tells you like, go be in contact with nature, go connect with your true essence. That's what they do every single day, every single time they go out surfing.
How did it make you feel when you show this to Cubans and they say what you've just explained about, hey, you nailed it, like you really captured exactly how we feel and the way we live in Cuba?
They're very excited. Like even on Instagram, they post and they said like, hey, thank you, Corona, for coming here, for telling our story, for really capturing who we are, what we wish, and just being able to spread it out to the world. I mean, they're guys that have been surfing with any type of board they can really get their hands on, that nobody has really taken a deep look into them. And for them, it was like an important first step. They're saying that it's a new step, like it's going to be a turning point in their history. That's how some of them have described it. Like,
that's incredible.
We feel we're getting recognition. We feel that we matter.
Right.
And that the world wants to hear more about us. So that was very exciting.
I think they do, and they will. I'd also ask Miguel and probably Gabor too. You know, I was fascinated by, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I was so into the film, I may have missed some of this, but I'm always looking for, you know, the branding, and when the branding kind of emerges and comes up in films like this. And I wrote down here it wasn't until about 7 minutes in where I even noticed a t-shirt, or actually I think it was the cooler that said Corona on it. Oh, and David's nodding, so I guess I didn't screw up. But how did you guys feel as the brand? Like, hey, you know, this thing is 7 minutes in and we haven't seen anything that says Corona on it just yet.
Well, and it's part of the values of Corona Studios is to be true, to be authentic in everything we do, in the stories that we capture, in the creators that we bring to our network to engage our consumers. And in a story like this, the branding, it's in the story that we are telling that is connected with Corona value, with Corona purpose. And we have full of these subtle elements, but not minor, like the t-shirts, like the towels, like the coolers, that I like part of our merchandise, that is lifestyle merchandising, that we introduce in our stories. And in other stories we have like some socializing occasion when the product appears in a very natural way, you know. So we protect in Corona Studios to be authentic. You have the branding at the beginning when you said Corona Studios is present. Corona Studios presents.
True.
So that's the branding, and that's the difference between Corona brand and the treatment that we have of our branding, traditional advertising. For entertaining, we want to do as real and not forced. No, we want to make it natural.
I think it was actually really fun that the branding that you see, it wasn't really that planned out. We did the barbecue and I told them, hey, I want to do a barbecue, get everyone together. And I showed them references of Fast and Furious, honestly. Said, okay, let's do a gathering like this. And they're the ones who brought the boards and put it against the walls. There's the one who are bringing up the coolers. We didn't tell them like wear the t-shirts. They wore them themselves. It was all at the table. It was like,
Wow.
hey, come see if you like how we organize the table. And when I just went to the second floor, then I saw everything already fixed that way. It was them. If you see the table, it's them being absolutely 100% Cuban. The rice is still like on the cooker, on the bowl that it's cooked in. Everything is just the way they are. Even the way they walk down the streets, you see all the main neighborhoods of Cuba, all the 3 neighborhoods that have surfing. So you see the buildings at the start. You see downtown Havana. You also see the houses near the end. And I think that's what they also like a lot, that it's like a representation of their day-to-day lives. I mean, like everyone from Cuba, from Havana that watches it instantly recognizes, oh, we went down this street, or we go surfing at that beach.
Yeah, it probably feels, I mean, like home to them, and very authentic. And Gabor, I would just harken back to what you were saying about this is the real deal. I mean, this is really the way that people are behaving, and it's a lifestyle. When you sit where you sit in this process, Gabor, how did you, I hate saying this, but as brand filmmakers, you know, we talk a lot about measuring success. So how was success, and how will success continue to be measured from the brand with this particular film?
I can say it from my point of view, but it's ultimately a Miguel question, obviously. But for me, 2 things to measure success. Short term, for me to measure success for a project like this is if this film is being shown to an audience who do not know they're about to see a branded film, who may have never heard of Corona Studios. And they watch this film and they accept it, and they like it, and they love it, and hopefully they talk about it or share it. And I've seen this. We submitted this film to a couple of festivals, and luckily we were accepted at a few beautiful festivals. And I had the opportunity to go to a screening at the Urban World Festival in New York a couple of weeks ago. It's a serious film festival. They show serious social issue films. No one accepts a brand film there. Yeah. And then suddenly this film opens, Corona Studio logos up. And I said to myself, oh boy, how will this audience react? Full house, full house. How will they react if a brand is suddenly showing a film? Will they boo? Will they get up? Will they leave the theater? Because first there's like surprise. And then they see these beautiful images. And usually we know, we get it. We do aspirational films, but there's a very large audience who never see a real aspirational film. They're stunned by the beauty of these images that David and his team produced. And they got sucked into the story. And more, they love the story. And they react to it, something you don't get on social media. People laugh about jokes. You know, there's this surfer, and he talks about that he called his first surfboard Titanic, because it would always sink. The audience burst into laughing, like 300, 400 people in the room laughing. You never get this on social media. We don't get this kind of feedback. So that's number one, to answer your question. Short-term duration, new people get sucked into the story. They accept Corona Studio as a storyteller, and they're curious about the stories we tell, and obviously that they liked our story. My second personal goal is I want people to recognize Corona content or Corona Studios content without seeing a logo, without knowing, listen, something from Corona Studios is coming.
Yes.
Just by the look and feel of it. Yeah. There is less than a handful of brands who have achieved this, and probably Nike, Red Bull among them. Corona is almost there. It's almost there. We, for the past years, and this is exactly what Miguel was referring to, we are tough, not because we want to be right or we want to be tough, because we not only have to protect a very valuable brand, we have to get exactly to that point that people, when they see our content, they know it's Corona, and we don't have to put our logo on everything. Yeah. And they see a beautiful beach, they see a certain lifestyle, there's a certain vibe in the air, they know it's Corona. Yeah. And this is where we want to get. And I think for a brand story festival like this one, I think this is really important. Yeah. Because this is where you want to get. Yeah. That people see like half a second of your content and they know where it's coming from.
Yeah, which brand? Miguel, would you agree with that? And how does that make you feel as the brand? Like, this is success. What does it mean for the future of brand filmmaking? This could be a case study, this particular film.
Yeah, and that is exciting, because at the end, our long-term goal is to position Corona brand not as a successful big brand. Is to position Corona brand as a lifestyle brand. And these efforts like Corona Studios at this kind of stories as the Cuban way help us to meet that ultimate goal. At the end, if we are able to inspire consumers and inspire other content creators to bring such a wonderful stories aligned with our brand purpose, we are moving on to meet that goal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. David, I'm going to end with you. I think we're running out of time, gentlemen, but I would say, tell me two things about being out in the field during the shoot. What was the single most exciting moment? It's got to be one that wasn't planned, I'm sure of it. And what was the biggest challenge in shooting in Cuba and with this particular content?
Well, I think in general, the feeling that we were shooting amongst friends, like even the surfers will get their own camera, just old GoPros at times. And try to shoot from their boards. They would tie them with shoelaces on their wrists so they wouldn't lose it. And there's actually a couple of shots in there that they shot themselves. So I always told them, like, you're my field producer or you're my third camera guy. And they would all get excited and just try to do the best effort possible. They would always watch out, like, hey, I think there's going to be waves today. So everyone was just so involved in the project. And at times where you were expecting 5 people to shoot one morning, 20 people would come over because they heard about the news and they just wanted to be part of it. I think like a single shot, the one towards the end where they all hold their hands and raise them during the sunset, that wasn't planned at all. That wasn't planned. We had actually finished shooting already, and they were also happy that they just did it. And I said, hey, the cameras, get them on again. We got to get this. So it actually seems a bit blurry. If you take a good look at it, that final shot, it's a bit blurry actually, because it was just the spur of the moment and we just had to capture it.
I remember, and I completely thought that was intentional, by the way.
Yeah, but it was just, very exciting moments that came out of nowhere. There was a lot of moments throughout the story that they will share with us that took us to different directions. So I did have a game plan in mind. I had interviewed them extensively before the shoot, but at times it was just like, hey, this that you just mentioned, let's go with this. Let's go to this direction. Let's try to get on the bus to shoot. And that was the most difficult one. I mean, if you see the film, you'll think that, okay, the shot on the bus, that was a quick one. We took 3.5 hours to get that shot.
You're kidding.
Yeah, because just the lines and just waiting for a bus to pass where you could actually get on was nearly impossible. Like all the buses were completely packed. And then when you're on the bus, then just being able to move around, equipment, all the cameras, it was so hard. And there was another thing that it was like a big frustration I had, because everyone had face masks. In Cuba, you're still required to use a face mask, but you can hear people on the back mocking them, saying like, these guys think they're gonna surf in Cuba, that there's waves in Cuba.
Really?
And you could see live all those struggles that they always mention to us. Like, hey, people don't know about this. They laugh at us. They see us and they don't really recognize us as a person that could do a valuable sport.
I hope you got their names and their numbers so you can send them the film, because they'll know now. They'll know now, that's for sure.
Hopefully.
Well, gentlemen, unless there's anything that you would like to add, I just want to congratulate you on a really exciting film, a lovely piece that was emotional and feel good, and yet really did have those undertones of some of the struggle and some of the hardship that we know about Cuba. I really appreciate the conversation. I look forward to more people being able to see the film. So again, the brand is Corona, and the name of the film is The Cuban Way. So to Gabor, Miguel, and David, fantastico, wonderful, wonderful piece. And thank you so very much. I'm Heidi Collins with Storybones Media, everybody. We thank you for your time. Have a terrific day.